Hello world, and welcome to my channel, where I share my writing journey, talk about books, and even, on occasion, shake things up. In today's video, I'm going to talk about a recent victory for freedom of speech, and dare I say, probably our own civilizational sanity as well. I'm talking, of course, about Elon Musk's recent purchase of the social media giant, Twitter. As predicted, he has already come under attack by one side of the aisle in particular, because his insistence upon preserving freedom of speech means that the political narrative isn't so easily shaped by one side anymore. But rather than rehash the same details of this historic deal, I would rather talk about my own fears regarding social media, its propensity for siphoning people into radicalized interest groups, and how the bad ideas that gain speed on social media have made it possible for small, indie publishers to have their entire business shut down at a moment's notice. I'm referring to Silver Shamrock Publishing. However, before I get into today's video, if you enjoy my work and would like to support it, please smash that like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to my channel, and ring that bell. I post new videos every Wednesday, in theory, and I would be honored if you would come with me on my journey to make my writing dreams a reality. Now let's say more than we should. Back when I was in middle school, in about 2003, social media wasn't nearly as pervasive as it is today. We had MySpace, good old MySpace, but that was about it, and truth be told, I'm thankful for that. Personally, I didn't really get involved too much with social media until years later, once it became clear to me that developing my online presence and putting my work out there as a writer was kind of necessary for building my author career. But my friends were online. In fact, my friend group tended to gravitate toward Tumblr in particular, which came along right at the end of what would have been my high school years. And that's when things got interesting. You see, back when I was a youngin', this seemingly new trend popped up among my peers where everyone decided that they were some sort of new sexuality. Either they were bisexual, pansexual, or something other than just straight. Suddenly, everyone had a brand new label to tote around. And honestly, it felt like more of a fashion accessory than anything else. A way to get quick social brownie points. I also remember that self-harm began taking off too, which was something that I was, lamentably, less resilient against. But regardless, in retrospect, middle school, and what would have been high school, represented an interesting learning experience for me, because this time allowed me to witness and to a certain extent participate in. And the really startling part for me was how all of my separate friend groups started becoming very radicalized in a left-leaning direction. If you are in America, or perhaps even just the Western world, you probably have noticed just how vitriolic our political climate has become. And I don't think politics was ever a walk in the park, but it just seems so supercharged with group loyalties that we didn't used to have. Group identities that mean more to us than our sense of patriotism, our religions, if we have one. I mean, for heaven's sake, there are even different flags for different sexualities, which strikes me as wholly insane. Why would a sexuality need a flag? I mean, I can kind of understand the rainbow flag, but a flag for transsexuality? Bisexuality? Pedophilia? Yes, you heard me correct. They're called MAPs, minor attracted persons. Don't even get me started on those perverts. What I'm getting at is, we now live in such an interconnected world that we can just jump online, find a group that matches whatever interest we happen to have, and then form our own sort of communities around this particular group. We can become completely enmeshed in ideologies that are separate from our sense of country, religion, the means by which we choose to identify, the creeds that we hold to be the most important to us, have changed completely in a way that I'm not historically familiar with, that I can recall. Our sense of community no longer relies on being within close proximity to each other. And it sucks because this should be a good thing. The fact that we can talk to each other and understand each other's way of life should have, in a perfect world, helped us come closer together. But I fear that it has done the opposite. Let me ask you, when you go on Twitter, Are you overwhelmed with a good, wholesome sense of togetherness? Because I, for one, feel like I'm walking into the middle of a war zone sometimes. I'm being hyperbolic, but you get what I mean, right? Twitter seems to be the rallying point for the most angry, radicalized people to shout their grievances at each other and to form lynch mobs against their perceived transgressors. Recently, a small indie publisher had to close its doors because a Twitter mob barnstormed their shit, all for the crime of announcing that they were going to publish a book called The White Plague, a book which the Twitterati had deemed racist. And perhaps just as worryingly, Twitter provided people with the illusion of free speech. It's very easy to come away with the impression that, oh yes, anyone can just send up a tweet and you have just as much likelihood as being heard as anybody else. But this isn't true, because there are algorithmic shenanigans at play. I don't think it's coincidence that the moment that Elon Musk announced that he was buying Twitter, all of a sudden all these conservative commentators got a deluge of new subscribers and views. We're talking tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions. If I didn't know any better, I would think that this would indicate that the people writing the code over at Twitter were desperate to get rid of the evidence of political shenanigans and bias before the new boss, Elon Musk, took over. Twitter has created an extraordinarily worrying ecosystem wherein new sexualities, sexual identities, and social contagions like self-harm can crop up overnight and proliferate. Which is why I'm so thankful that Elon Musk decided to scrape together $46 billion and buy it. This man is probably the most important visionary of our time. No, he's not perfect, but I definitely think he's on the side of good. And I'm thankful that he has taken such a drastic measure to preserve freedom of speech. The fact that he is willing to act on principle to preserve the Enlightenment ideals that got us to such an advanced and prosperous civilization in the first place gives me hope for the future of humanity. I'm worried that much of my own generation, as well as the generations after it, don't understand the importance of freedom of speech. The fact that this is not something that I learned about in my time in public school troubles me, because in my experience, most people don't bother to learn anything about philosophy and history once they exit their classroom doors. It isn't obvious what application John Stuart Mill might have when you're just trying to pay your mortgage or earn enough money to buy groceries. But this foundation really does matter. We can't be so afraid of giving the wrong people a voice with which they may speak, because if we do, they somehow may harm others. And when I see renewed calls for government censorship and legal constraints upon social media, now that Elon Musk has finalized his purchase, I can't help but find it completely hypocritical, as well as pretty revealing. Our President Joe Biden has officially announced a disinformation governance board. Yeah, because that's not Orwellian, huh? As writers, our ability to speak and imagine freely is of paramount importance. Regardless of what our own political views may be, right or left, conservative or liberal, Democrat or Republican, we need to at least be in agreement that we have the right to express our ideas, just as we have the right to listen to each other. And it disturbs me when I see people in my own profession leading the calls for censorship. When I see readers and other authors destroying small independent publishing houses, like what happened with Silver Shamrock Publishing, because they had the audacity to publish a book that went against their own political sensibilities, I can't help but worry that these progressive Puritans are trying to drag us kicking and screaming back into the Dark Ages. Are we just spoiled? Do we not realize how good we have it? I don't know. But as we go forward, I hope that we are blessed with enough clarity to navigate a world that is increasingly riven apart by whatever ideas on social media happen to catch fire, and that we can use these platforms, such as Twitter, as exploring these ideas as they organically rise and fall, rather than as tools for our own destruction. I hope that Elon Musk is able to revitalize Twitter into the free speech tool that it has the potential to be. Because if he could do that, If he could free us up from the shackles of the algorithm that only allows us to see one political point of view and is increasingly radicalizing a generation with misplaced notions of group identity and victimhood, he could change the world. In many ways, he already has. Thank you for listening to me. And now, I would like to listen to you. What do you think of Elon Musk's Twitter purchase? Do you think that the benefits of social media outweigh the costs on a societal level? I would love to know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoy my work and would like to support it, please smash that like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to my channel, and ring that bell. I post new videos every Wednesday, and I would be honored if you would come along with me on this journey to make my writing dreams a reality. I'll see you in my next video. Take care.